On the show this week, we'll answer listener questions and talk briefly about Ellie's big 7th episode of The Last of Us titled Left Behind.
Alabama Take Projection.
Welcome to Taking It Down, where we cordially unpack TV and film for our busy Alabama people who are also obsessed with television and movies as much as we are. I'm Blaine Duncan, one of the hosts. Taking It Down exists because I thoroughly enjoy dissecting why I like what I like and why I dislike what I dislike when it comes to TV, movies, sometimes books and music. I have an English degree, and I'm also a teacher, so I try my best to pair those together to offer insight worthy of your time, because we know you're probably too busy to read everything out there. Plus, I was once your classic 80s and 90s kid who grew up in front of a television set and was thrilled to visit the movie theater for entertainment. Luckily, my ideas aren't the only set of viewpoints on the podcast every week. As with me are always these three. Adam Morrow, who's an erudite, traveling and studio musician with a penchant for fine literature. Donovan Reinwald, a media specialist with encyclopedic knowledge on film and a lot more. And then there's Natalie Morrow, the first person to ask about fantasy, sci-fi, comics, trashy reality TV, and any Beyonce album. From us, you get the obvious, but you also get the obscure. Here are the hosts and the panel. I can introduce our regular guy by saying if you live in the Southeast, he'll be making music in a roadhouse near you. His name's Mr. Adam Morrow.
It's Mr. Adam Morrow here weighing in. Can't wait to be riding in the van through the Southeast yet again on the way to South by Southwest.
You're going to be laying down bass duty with the Glory Fires, this incarnation of the Glory Fires. Tell me something. This might be a spoiler. You might not can comment. Do you get to play guitar any?
No guitar.
Okay.
It's a three-piece attack this time.
Okay.
It ought to be pretty fun. If you live between, I think we start in Chattanooga and go out to Austin and swing, our one Alabama stop is in Mobile. But yeah, check out Lee's website.
Mobile, Alabama. I'll give you guys a live report from Mobile, Alabama.
You coming to the show?
I'm coming to the show. I already have my hotel booked.
Daggum.
If you're in the Northeast, this guy will be helping you with your work in college. His name's Mr. Donovan Reinwald.
Great to be here, Blaine.
NPR's own. Next up, if you're going to be working for the weekend in Florence, Alabama, she's going to be right beside you, just praying for Friday at 4. It's Miss Natalie Morrow.
It's just like the saddest introduction ever. Hey, here's your bleak existence.
A quick ad read. Excuse me, everyone. This episode is sponsored by Kodachrome Gardens in Florence, Alabama. Kodachrome brings the world its food, but only if it has a fence to keep the deer out. Kodachrome Gardens. How can we live without food? Kodachrome.
Thank you, Blaine.
Okay.
It's very professional.
Yeah.
That's a good slogan.
Yeah.
Who came up with that?
That would be, you guys should incorporate that somehow. How can we live without food? The only way Kodachrome sponsors us is, because I've always said at the beginning of our podcast, when we started the podcast in episodes 1 through 20, never an ad here, but Kodachrome kind of does help us by lending us Adam and Natalie for Sundays.
Let's be honest, too. We take the ad money.
When I say never an ad, it's because I never suspect anybody would give me money.
Oh,
for
it's
this
not.
shit,
It's not
so.
a philosophical position. It's just the financial reality. Okay.
I will sell out in a heartbeat. Let's open up our show with listener questions. And we'll be honest with everyone. We're doing listener questions this week because we're, the four of us, I think, are all woefully behind on anything television related or movie related.
Hey, I'm up on Arrested Development.
Yeah, they're taking away Arrested Development soon from Netflix, and
Which is a sin.
it is. I don't understand how a streaming service that paid for the production of more episodes would then ever take. Did they run out of cloud space? Like, what's happening here? Do we need to contribute to their Dropbox fund? What's going on? Why? I mean, I really don't understand. Like, I know HBO has done this as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big time. HBO Max is doing this huge. They're canceling shows. They're taking things off the streamer, such as, well, they canceled Westworld, and they took a couple of like big
They
titles
took some
off
big
the
ones
streamer.
off,
Yeah,
which I
and
can't think of either. But
I mean, that's why you pay for this shit, so you can just go watch it whenever you want. But
exactly.
it's also why critics who are smarter than us say buy a physical copy if you really love something, if you want to watch it over and over.
Thankfully, I haven't burned a hole in the first 3 seasons of Arrested Development. I still have the
You got physical
DVDs.
copies?
Oh yeah.
Mine has a hole in the center.
Well, yeah. But I didn't burn that one.
That's actually pretty good, Donovan.
That was dumb.
Yeah, so you guys were just soaking in the Arrested Development as you could because it's going to be off the streamer, I think the day this episode drops, right?
March 14th.
Okay, so 2 weeks.
Hey, that's a funny date. They're taking that away, and the new Speckled Bird EP comes out. How
One
about
for
that?
one.
Did I cause the problem?
This episode is sponsored by Speckled Bird.
I didn't even want to do that. That's not what I was getting at. Just like, what
No,
a
it's great.
strange out of 365 days.
Yeah, I mean, we said at the top of the show, you're a musician and you're going to be traveling with the Glorifiers. You're going to be putting out Speckled Bird EP. People who listen to us probably want to know that stuff. So yeah, check out
That was
Speckled
me.
Bird in a week.
I was the boy.
Let's get some listener questions because we don't have enough to fill up a show other than listener questions. That's the truth. Well, you're honest with our audience. First, this is from me. I came up with a couple of these. First,
Oh, man.
Yeah, is that okay?
No.
I probably should have given some of y'all a heads up. These are thoughtful questions on
Shit.
my
Oh,
end.
dear.
Well, first, what's the worst you've ever been spoiled on a show, movie, or book?
I am generally pretty good about avoiding spoilers for things that I'm actively watching.
Sure.
It's the things that, like if you don't have HBO for a spell, say like when Game of Thrones starts, and when you start season 1 and they're already in season 2, what's going to happen at the end of season 1? Does that count? I've never had anything where it was like I'm waiting on the episode to watch it tomorrow, and somebody told me what happened today. You know what I mean?
That's usually fairly easy because you know when you're going to watch it and you avoid a lot. You never had one of those moments where you just got pissed off for accidental even reasons?
I don't. Donovan's laughing. Has this happened?
No,
to me that I don't remember.
That's unrelated. I'm remembering how She-Hulk had massive spoilers for The Sopranos, which my wife has not finished.
Oh.
And she has not gotten to that point.
That's a good answer, though.
Fortunately, she was out of the room.
Oh.
Or like in the kitchen or something, so she didn't get spoiled. But
That would be a great answer. I mean,
that would be terrible, right?
there are things that I know, but they like have entered the cultural vernacular in a way that like I can't be mad about like what happened to Ned Stark if it took me 6 to 12 months to watch season 1 of Game of Thrones. So I don't have a good answer for this one.
Donovan?
Passion of the Christ.
Mine was Titanic. No, that's not my answer. I have a okay answer. Natalie, did it ever happen to you?
Yeah, it did happen to me. And I'm pretty open about the fact that I don't mind a spoiler most of the time, especially at this point in my life. But in the summer of, I believe, was 2005, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince came out. And I was very excited about reading this book for the first time. And
I'm about to get thrown under the
Sweet
bus, you
Adam
guys.
opens the book, reads the chapter titles, and says, "The White Tomb. Oh, I bet Dumbledore dies." I was like, motherfucker.
I don't know how you can. Okay, one, that was 18 years ago.
She hasn't let it drop.
Wow.
That's when I decided, I guess I don't care about spoilers anymore. Just give them all. I'll take all.
I still don't. How is that my fault that I took a stab at what might happen based on chapter titles? It's not like they like the fact that you could see them all makes them fair game, right?
Yeah, why? Who reads chapter titles? You,
Allowed
obviously.
to other people.
Right.
Well, I mean, you have to remember this was like an event. You go and get your book, and everybody's kind of like looking at the cover and maybe reading the first few paragraphs together and all that kind of stuff. Why would you not like flip through the chapter titles just to get a little hint?
I mean, yeah, but don't make your speculations out loud. It's just rude.
I'll go back to 1999, and I remember this so clearly. I was watching Rosie O'Donnell. They had someone from The Sixth Sense on, and it had been in the theater for, I'm guessing it had been in the theater probably for a month or so, and they just assumed everybody who'd seen it was going to see it, and they dropped that spoiler. And I remember thinking, well, goddamn, that's huge. I was thinking, well, by the time I rent it on DVD, I will have forgotten that. No, I didn't. It was big enough to stick with you.
That's kind of a tough one to forget.
Did the movie work for you, even being spoiled? Or was it all
No,
about that twist?
it was a good and interesting and kind of spooky movie. Yeah. So, but as far as the twist itself is so huge, though.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's fairly predictable twist. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that in hindsight. I was spoiled by a big event, I think, in the first or second season of The Sopranos, because, like Adam with Game of Thrones, I came into it several years late. I knew one of the guys was not going to survive. It's one of the first big ones. But it had just become part of the lexicon. It was no one's fault. I don't even know how I knew it. It's just common knowledge at that point. But this one was blatantly spoiled on a TV show before internet, before you would be on the internet doing a lot of things like reading message boards would be about it, and I wasn't doing that.
And OnlyFans.
It was long before that.
No, it wasn't.
This was back where you just had to go to the store and shamefully buy your porn.
Being spoiled somewhere else, that makes me think, growing up as a kid of the 90s with The Simpsons, how many things probably got spoiled for me without me even knowing it.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I feel like I'm still like going through life and finding new movies or music or whatever, and it's like, oh, this is where that Simpsons bit came from.
yeah. Okay, take writer Jeremy Satcher asks, "Have you ever fired your gun up in the air and gone "arr"?" And my question is, do y'all get that reference?
Is that like a pirate or a cowboy?
Well, I did it horribly. Have you ever seen Hot Fuzz?
Nope.
You know what? Didn't like it the first time I saw it.
It's from that movie. But in that movie where he says that, he's referencing Point Break. So have you seen that movie?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the original.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, man. That's a good. Speaking of the '90s, that's a good '90s movie.
That movie, it holds up. I'll tell you what we did. The two like movies of that era that we've watched in recent times. We watched the original Top Gun just to see if we had any inclination to go to the theater. It did not make us want to go to the theater.
Oh.
And then we watched Point Break and we're like, one of these is like an actual good fun movie and the other one just sucks.
That one's just propaganda.
Yeah.
They don't make movies like Point Break anymore. Or am I going crazy?
Didn't they just make another Point Break?
Well, yeah, but that wasn't that like 8 to 10 years ago.
What do you mean when you say movies like Point Break?
Just like straight ahead action / thriller kind of movie. Like you find them on Netflix now, but they don't make them for the theater anymore.
You mean something that is also not tied into a franchise?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Point Break has like a kind of an ominous quality to it that a lot of it just had like it was simple, but it was kind of like more layered than you, at least in like its presentation,
I really want to go watch it. All right, let's get to our next question.
Figured for sure you were signing off. Like, all right, see y'all later. I'm gonna go
See you
watch it."
later.
Might as well. I wonder if it's streaming.
It is, or it was, I don't know, a couple months ago right now.
Yeah.
Okay, another Alabama Take resident writer, Ty Edmondson, wrote, "I want to know everyone's album they go back to and it never gets old."
Only one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could rattle off some because it'd be hard to pick one, right? But you take your pick.
I think maybe because of the time of year, but it doesn't really matter. I'll go Strange Geometry by The Clientele. I could listen to that over and over and over again, and Natalie's probably going, and he won't stop.
And he does.
He really does.
Yeah, just the one? You got any more?
Honestly, The Clientele would probably like have most of the top 10 slots where it kind of just fits any time and puts me in a better mood. Even like my beloved U2, there are moments where I don't go to U2. I could always put on a little Clientele.
I can tell you what I listened to this week. I'm trying to think of stuff that I just go over and over to, but the album that I went back to this week was Teen Dream by Beach House, which
that's another one.
That's
great.
Yeah, never really seems to get old. Every time I listen to it, it's like my brain forgets everything. So listening again is a fresh new experience.
We saw them on that tour.
Yeah, it's great.
That remains one of the loudest shows that I've ever been to.
Between
Beach House?
Yeah.
Wow, I wouldn't. That's not what I thought.
Do you guys remember it that way?
Yeah. That was at Bottle Tree, right?
Yeah.
Was it Bottle Tree and Washed Out opened?
Yes.
This was
Yeah.
pre-Portlandia,
That was
right?
before
Or was it?
Portlandia.
Okay. And they came out and they were on, they're still, I think maybe they have more touring members now, but they had just added, like they had an actual drummer in addition to the drum machine stuff. And just like the way that they cranked all that organ sound was just like so heavy.
What about you, Natalie?
I think mine is Guster. Keep it together. I go back to that a lot.
That's an under-celebrated band. I feel like they get like either ignored or kind of dunked on, but there was some good pop songs on that record.
Guster's great. If you just want to that's like the epitome. Like you guys know, the kind of music I like is the kind where you can just like ride down the road on a sunny day in a car with the window down. Like Guster is the perfect band for that. And I'll fight anybody who says otherwise.
Oh, I'm trying to think of mine. It's tough. Like I just don't get tired of it, huh?
He was turned around the entire time we were talking, staring at the records behind us, trying to pick his choice.
I record right in front of these records, one stand of records, and I'm trying to think.
This is a fun question because it's not your favorite record, you know?
Yeah.
It's just one you do not get tired of. I guess I'll say Darkness on the Edge of Town. Is that
Ooh,
do I get tired of that one? I don't think I do.
I definitely don't.
Time Out of Mind is one I don't get tired of. Dylan's Time Out of Mind.
I was actually thinking about a branch of this question. Maybe what's a song that hits the same no matter what you're doing? You know, some songs are like very specific to a moment, and some are just like so good that they knock you out no matter what. Because I was trying to find a way to shoehorn Racing in the Street into this conversation. So thank you for doing it for me.
Yeah, you want to talk Racing in the Street at length?
I mean, we can.
I guess those are my two answers. I compiled the questions onto a document, but I didn't think about it. Here's one. Matt Wortell, over on Instagram, he asked, pulled pork or brisket? We don't have an answer. I have an answer.
I mean, they're both good, but
They're both good.
brisket is the superior meat.
I'd say pork.
Nah, brisket.
Arlie, part of the Alabama take as well, wanted to know, is Cocaine Bear all it's cracked up to be?
I mean, from the screener, I thought it was pretty good. No, I said I saw the screener. They sent it to me early,
Personally,
ahead of
with
time.
a note and a little bit of cocaine.
Yep.
Are you going to see it?
No.
What about at home?
I guess this is kind of the kind of movie, the Point Break type movies that they don't make anymore.
Are we
Like,
really
well,
comparing Cocaine Bear to Point Break?
Yes.
No.
I'm just saying this one
Yes.
actually is not tied into a franchise, and it actually came to a theater. Unless I guess the franchise is drugs.
I think it's going to be a great movie, you guys. I just have it's going to be one of those movies that nobody goes to see, and then once you do see it, you're like, holy shit, this movie's amazing. Cocaine Bear.
I hope that's true. I'm worried that it's possibly the most offensive thing, which is boring.
Yeah, that's the other option.
This one's from Mike on Instagram. Who's the least likely to watch a show or movie for this podcast?
Like not do their homework?
Yeah.
Is
Who
it
is
Blaine?
it?
It's
Is
me.
it?
No,
We're kind of tied.
I feel like we all have played that role in equal amount,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're all tied. That's why there's four of us, so that we can cover bases here.
The week that Blaine showed up and was like, I didn't watch anything. Was
What was
It
that?
was great.
What were we supposed to
I
cover?
don't even remember, but it was pretty funny.
Donovan did it last week, right?
He did it this week.
Well, we
He hasn't
all did
watched
it this
any-
week. That's why
We
we're
all did
talking
it this
about
week.
this right now.
Hey, I saw The Last of Us.
Oh,
I did
that's right.
too.
You just hadn't seen the film last week.
Right.
I think Donovan can be the worst. Is Donovan the worst at this?
Are we still answering that question, or is that just like a blanket statement?
It's just a blanket statement.
Yeah, well, Donovan's the worst. Yeah.
Our guy Jeff, the Jeff.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, for the Jeff. Anyone else walking around screaming, I have holes after watching Ant-Man? He wrote, I have holes in all caps.
Well, Jeff was doing that for years, so
Have any of us seen it?
No, I think we all agreed it sounded so bad. In fact, I just got done listening to The Watch, and they spoiled a little of it. Not really, but they just talked about how much of a clusterfuck it really was. Yeah, it was sad. And I'll throw one more out. So I did watch the Chris Rock live event on Netflix. I like stand-up comedy quite a bit. I'll go to a stand-up show as much as I can. Do any of you have a favorite stand-up comedian?
Yes, but you need to edit this out.
Are you going to get canceled for saying Louis C.K.?
It's Louis C.K. before he got canceled.
I've seen him. I've seen him in Nashville. Yeah, before obviously.
He got canceled and then dedicated his life to not being funny ever again. But some of his stand up is great.
It really is really good. What about you, Adam?
We don't watch a lot of stand-up. Natalie may watch more than me.
Yeah, for sure.
You got a favorite?
I like John Mulaney.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I have a hard time. You guys know, again, I don't do well when I'm told things are supposed to be funny.
Mm.
But if the comedian can, like, I don't know, if I can understand how they speak and their language and like their personality through that, then I can find it funny. And so I think that's why I like him. Jenny Slate did a pretty good. She had a Netflix special a couple of years ago. That one was pretty good too.
Those are good. I was lucky enough to see Zach Galifianakis at Bottle Tree.
That sounds amazing.
Was that weird?
So good. So good. He's my favorite if he can count, but he doesn't do stand-up anymore. Norm Macdonald was probably my favorite of just pure stand-up comedian who really didn't get much into anything else. Chris Rock's good. I think I can still say Dave Chappelle, maybe. Some.
How was the Chris Rock special? That's part one. And part two, did you actually watch it live?
Yeah, I did.
What was that
It was
like?
good. Oh, it was kind of fun. So I logged into Netflix about 5 minutes before, and Leslie Jones was wrapping up her stand-up because they did like a pre-show. They did like warm-up comedians. And when she got done, she brought out a bunch of people on stage, and it was at a very small, looked like a New York kind of stage. The name of it was on the poster in the background, and she brought out David Spade, Dana Carvey, Arsenio Hall, and a couple other people, and they all just kind of gathered around and was like soaking in the applause. And then Arsenio introduced Chris Rock, and it switched to a huge concert hall, and it was really cool. The stand-up itself was not one of his greats, but it was definitely worth watching. It got a lot of chuckles out of me, and of course the Will Smith. Everybody, all the news media is concentrating immediately upon him addressing the Will Smith slap the day after it aired. But I was curious if he was going to catch any flack about making some transgender jokes, not at their expense. I didn't interpret it as that, but it was good. Worth watching, I think, if you're into stand-up and Chris Rock.
Sounds fun.
Every time someone does a live special like that, all I can think, like NBC or like Peter, these people that do Peter Pan live or whatever, all I can think of is the Simpsons joke where it's like, we rarely do animation live. It's a tremendous strain on the animator's wrist.
What makes the Alabama take so special?
Because it's our country. Because of all the great writing.
Is that all?
They also produce 6 podcasts.
6 podcasts? What are they?
Take it on sports. Taking it down. Check your shelf. This song sucks, yeah, baby. We are a Star Wars.
Do you listen to them?
Yes. I don't miss it.
Which one's your favorite?
I love all of them.
All right, we're back. We've watched the 7th episode of The Last of Us from HBO, which is titled Left Behind. It was really Ellie's time to shine. She did most of the action in the episode without Joel. It involved a lot of flashback. The whole episode was almost a flashback with a friend named Riley from the Boston QZ. Joel, in the present day, was laying on the floor dealing with a huge wound on his belly. And so what'd you think, Donovan?
I did like it, and I think sometimes I get annoyed when like there's a cliffhanger and then the episode does something to artificially extend it, or the next episode does something to artificially extend it. But I didn't feel like that was happening in this one. It felt like stuff that had been, and they actually did a pretty good job of like mentioning Riley in the first episode. When Marlene says, I think it's Marlene, is Riley a terrorist? they've done a lot of good setup for this episode, and then I think it paid off because Bella Ramsey and the actor who played Riley really, really, really were good together. Because a lot of the shit, the episode is just them hanging out.
I think her name's Storm Reed. She's in Euphoria. Do you watch Euphoria?
Okay. I haven't seen it.
She plays Zendaya's younger sister in that show, and she hasn't had a whole lot to do other than cry a lot in Euphoria. There's honestly a running joke that she just, every scene in Euphoria, she's just crying, making a particular cry face. But here, Storm Reed starring as the friend Riley, I found her to be so pretty note perfect, realistic teen without being an annoying teen. Realistic teen on the cusp of adulthood, maybe a little too early because of an apocalypse. And I thought everything about this episode was really, perfect. It's well done. I was happy to see Joel's death wasn't just played out for kicks like you're talking about. He's still in a spiral, but they found a house and a garage for the horse. So it's not like he's going to die immediately. He's obviously not going to die. But what it gave, I think, us as viewers an opportunity to do was just get to know what happened to Ellie and also get to know her. And she has that moment where she's reaching for the door handle to go upstairs to figure out, am I going to help him or leave him? I kind of thought about it in hindsight, where her reaching for that door handle was a moment of questioning, am I going to help him or leave him? And it was all on her face, Bella Ramsey.
Yeah. Like, she is really good at playing someone who doesn't exactly know what to do, and then gets resolved, basically, and makes her choice. She's going to stick with him.
And I was a huge fan. I thought it was a smart choice by writers to say her reaching for the door handle and then finally putting her hand on it. In between in between reaching for a door handle and then twisting the door handle, you can think back about your past, and that much of your past can run through your head. That's real to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's the whole cliche of your life flashes before your eyes. Well, it wasn't quite her life. It was a night of her life. And I think that seemed fair. Everything about that seemed to work. She processes a lot of what happened, and here she went back to her friend Riley. I thought it was a smart move.
I'm probably going to misuse this term, but the episode was more poignant because of the dramatic irony of, like, we know that she gets bitten. We know it's coming. We know she gets bitten in the mall.
Oh yeah, that worked out so well.
It's not even a surprise or a spoiler because we know it's coming, and so every moment is just kind of charged with, like, to paraphrase John Donne, what if this were the world's last night? What if this is the last moment they have together, and you're not sure?
You're paraphrasing John Donne in this show?
Yeah, John Donne said, what if tonight were the world's last night?
Are you
in one of his holy sonnets?
Wow, kudos, man! Hats off. That's pretty good stuff. I really liked how Ellie was painted as a very lonely kid in the Boston QC. She too is on that cusp of way too early adulthood. She's supposed to be 14 in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I felt her loneliness. I felt her alienation, even being around all those kids, some of whom will pick on her as they're running their track or whatever. In those final scenes, that had payoff too, because there she is, because they're going to die. They think they're both going to die together, and that's pretty lonely because it's just them two.
Which obviously parallels well with it just being her and Joel. And there's no one else in the world that she thinks she can trust. And there's maybe some hope or something in that, but it's also it's a pretty lonely place to be if you only have one person and they're lying on the floor with a gut wound.
Yeah.
And same thing for the flashback, right? Like, if you're only anchored to this world, has just gotten bitten, you're done.
The flashback really wanted to play up to the kiss. Did that work for you?
Yeah, it did.
It did for me too.
I thought it was a lot of the acting. Some of it was kind of like the way it's shot and whatever, but the acting made it feel very real and not forced.
That was the thing. It was not forced. it might have been a little too obvious were it not for the acting, but I was pulling for them. I was like, oh, okay, so at least Bella Ramsey is playing this as, I've got a crush on her. This is more than a mentor. Though the crush could have come along because she's a mentor, because she's smarter, because she's taking care of me, but I've also found that I've got this love for her. All of it, writing and acting, I think, just melded together for this one with that particular build up to a kiss. And then, of course, you get the heartbreak of the kiss because we know that Riley's not going to make it.
Yeah.
I think we as an audience know that anyway. Like, she's not going to appear in Wyoming when they get back.
Yeah, no, she's done.
Yeah.
I agree. It was the writing, the directing, the acting. It's almost hard to talk about the acting because it's hard to describe what they're doing. But there was something really great in Bella Ramsey's kind of long, mournful looks at Riley, at her anger at Riley, and she just played it really well.
Yeah, man. She would do these silent beats where it was, you could read in her face, I love you, but you're leaving. What am I supposed to do with this? How much do I admit I love you? It just hit. I thought that was a perfect example of being a teenager. If you've ever had a crush on someone who was going to college or moving away, or if you were in college even and you had a relationship and you knew they were moving, that is kind of how it plays out. You have these moments where, should I just start hating this person? Should just get angry? How do I deal with these emotions? And that was written all over her face. There is, someone pointed this out online, and forgive me for stealing the idea and not giving credit, but I don't remember who it was. But there is a little thing you can watch when they were in the photo booth where Bella Ramsey, in between photos, she glances side-eye at Storm Reed's character. There's just this longing right there, and just in a small little side-eye. I like the philosophical debate. Do we stay in the military, they're calling it Fedra there on the show? Do we stay with Fedra and try to improve it inside out? Soon we could be the leader and we could say, don't be brutal, don't do this, don't do that. Or do we join the Fireflies, have to kill in order to take control?
I think it's a very germane question because in a lot of ways, I think probably everyone that I know, probably everyone that listens to this podcast, probably just about everyone has joined Fedra in some way by being a part of 21st century American capitalism and maybe not resisting, being inside that system. And it does kind of make you think about like what a stark choice it would be and is to completely reject the system, and how little, how it hardly ever works, how little it often means.
I was reminded of being an Alabamian and people saying, I can't stand it here, I'm going to move to Vermont or I'm going to move to Massachusetts or California. It's better politically there. And then you always have people say, no, we got to stay and try to change it by having more like-minded people here. That's a real simplistic example, but I heard that echoed through their conversation.
That's a good comparison.
I love the camera work. It's to be commended. That move from them playing Mortal Kombat to sliding over to the diseased, the infected, top-notch horror camera movement there.
I really like this as horror that doesn't rely on a jump scare.
Yeah, me too.
It doesn't. It's just horrific because like death is coming, right? Like Riley says, we all get there in the end. Some of us just get there a little faster.
Yeah.
It's hanging over them.
I'll say this. I think it's okay to compare these two. We've had two gay kisses so far. We had Bill and Frank. We had Riley and Ellie's. Riley and Ellie's felt so much more natural as far as the two actors. Just acting is all I'm talking. Nick Offerman didn't sell his side of the kiss as a straight man. He still looked like a straight man trying to play gay. Is that what I'm trying to say? In that moment, he did. Yeah, and maybe that was the point, is that he was battling the idea that he was gay or bisexual or whatever he was, he was battling that internally anyway. So, okay, I guess that's fair. I've talked myself back around to that one.
Yeah, and I think Nick Offerman really sold it, for me at least, in the scene where he's on the piano,
Yeah.
right? And he says, Fred says, "Who's the girl?" And he says, "There is no girl." And it's just the way he says it. That sold me.
Speaking of selling you, I think if people are hesitant on Bella Ramsey, I've seen a little of that discussion online that they're wrong. I don't agree with them. They're wrong, but they weren't as sold on her, especially when she was first announced as the actress.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, here she was. I love how the episode took away a lot of her bluntness, her cursing to look tougher, her cursing, her denial of having feelings in order to. With Joel, this is what she does. She'll cuss and say "fuck off" because that's her guard. Here, she didn't have to do that with Riley, and she was sweet. She had these saccharine teen feelings we've all had. This felt very real.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the best
Yeah.
episode so far, I think.
Would I call it the best one so far? There have been episodes of this show that I have liked in different ways, but I thought that this one was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
And very, kind of like you said, like true to those teenage feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just a love story that just so happens to be at the end of the world.
Yeah, and it's true and it's fair to both of them, and it's got a tragic ending.
Mm-hmm. Another retelling of Romeo and Juliet, almost.
Yeah, Fedra and Fireflies.
It's nervousness you have with a crush and you love them, but yet the happiness of still being around them. And I was super appreciative of looking at a mall from someone's eyes who had never been to one, but who was old enough to say they're in a mall.
That was kind of fun, wasn't it?
That
Like
was.
just the
It added to the sweetness.
yeah, that she, and we've seen a little bit of this from her earlier, like when she's really impressed by an airplane, by flying.
Mm-hmm. And she drops
And-
that tough exterior.
Yeah. She tries to get tough a couple times, but it's really just her being vulnerable pretty much the whole episode.
It is. Which side of vulnerability will she play? The fake tough? And it's not that fake in the present day. The fake tough or the genuine?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Good work all around for this episode. I think we agree. That'll take us to the end of our episode. No show next week. We got a few of us on the road. We'll be out of pocket. That's the end of our show. You can continue the conversation with us online, Instagram and Twitter by Taking It Down Pod. One word. The whole network. Everything. The writing. The 6 different podcasts are all housed at The Alabama Take. You can follow them on social or just visit thealabamatake.com. We appreciate all our listeners, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks. See everyone later.